It's the authors showcase with brought to you by the National Black Unity News. As you can see that right there, hope y'all can see that through the lights there. The National Black Unity newspaper and JNF Enterprises, where we bring you some of the greatest articles, writers, editors that bring you news from all over the globe. And specifically with the Author Showcase, we bring you authors from around the country and even across the globe to talk about their mission, their message, their movement, and their motivation behind the great writing that they're doing in and out the world. We have had some of the most dynamic writers, some of the most dynamic authors that I believe that are in the world today, and I'm just enjoying being able to have these conversations with these great authors, these great writers. And today is going to be no different than any of the others that we have brought to you. And this brother has a powerful, powerful, powerful story. So we're going to jump right in, and I'm going to introduce him, but then I'm going to let him introduce himself to you all and allow him to tell you a little bit about who he is. And then we're going to get into our conversation, not just about his book, but just about all of the other great things that this brother has going on. Super talented, super, and I'm gonna try and get him. I don't know if I do it or not, but I'm gonna try him to get him to drop one of his poems from his other book that you can see on there. So get to drop some spoken word for us because I'm a
Absolutely.
spoken word lover myself and everything too. So I'm gonna see if I can't get him, if I can't egg him on to do that for us at the end of the show. So I want to introduce everyone to brother John Hansborough III, who is a brother that I met a couple months ago now, and was just blown away by his story, and you all will get to hear that in a little bit as we go on and talk about conversation. But brother John, I want to welcome you. Thanks for dropping into the Author Showcase.
Oh, thank you, Leroy. I appreciate you having me, man. It's definitely a pleasure. Definitely a pleasure.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'm loving it, and I'm looking forward to, as I told you earlier, I'm looking forward to this conversation, and to have others to be able to know and hear about it. If you could, I'd like for you to start off just by telling the audience and the viewers just a little bit about yourself, who you are, who is John Hansborough, and kind of take us back and then bring us forward to who John Hansborough is.
Well, my name is John Hansborough. I am an author, poet, spoken word artist. I began well, I've been always writing just about all of my life, but it was always on the back burner. And recently, around 2013, I went through some uh, life-changing events that put me on the path that I'm on now. Um, Me and my lovely wife of 13 years that we'll be celebrating on April the 1st, have been married for quite some time. And I wrote a little bit about some of the things that we went through, some of the trials and tribulations that we both dealt with in our life as a young Black married couple. I also write poetry. I have a poetry book out called Spitfire Poetry Shutdown. I have volume 1 and 2 is on Amazon, and
Oh, okay.
Unusual Favor is also on Amazon right now. And I also do a spoken word platform on Butterfly Entertainment that's called Spitfire Poetry Shutdown, where I have artists come on and we just go over some good spoken word.
Oh, I love that. I love that, man. Because like I said, I'm a poet as well, and have been writing. I've been writing since I was in college, and
Okay.
and we'll talk a little bit more about that. But I started writing poetry in college just to get the stuff out of my head that I
Hmm.
was feeling, seeing, and everything like that. Didn't think
Right.
anything of it at that time. I was just writing to get what I was feeling outside of me, and just wound up falling in love with it, and years later wound up showing it to friends and family as we do to start off. And when I saw how it impacted them, and they were like, well, man, you need to put this in a book. it triggered, something in me. At first, I didn't think anything, think it was worthy of being in the book and everything like that at that time. I was just like, wow. But so I'm always in awe and grateful when I meet another poet because we under poet us poets understand each other and
Oh,
everything. So,
absolutely. 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 Poetry for me, writing it is very therapeutic for me. Very
mm,
therapeutic. It helps me out in many different ways.
really, and see, and that's what it did for me too. That's what it
Right.
did for me too. So, um, you mentioned it a little bit, but I want you to, I guess, expound on it just a little bit. What got you started writing? What made you want to put pen to paper and think, you know what, wow, this is something that I think would be beneficial to be in a book? What was it something or was it someone that put that bug in your ear?
It was for well, for one, the situations that I dealt with, um, I was going through so much at the time. So writing, like I said, was therapeutic for me, whether it was poetry or if I was writing stories, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I felt as though the things that I went through could help someone else, could help another male in a relationship or another couple as a whole, to try to press forward and stick it out with whatever they're dealing with. So like I said, first it was a form of therapy for me. And then after a while, I read over my story. First, I wrote this story, Unusual Favor, in a play form at first. I used to do a lot of
Okay.
stage plays.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So I wrote that in a play form at first. And I sent it to someone who does a lot of plays that I know of and that I respect a lot. Their feedback, so I got that feedback on it, and then I made some minor adjustments because in the beginning of the story, Unusual Favor, I didn't use the story is about my wife and myself, but I didn't really use us as the characters per
Okay.
se, like using our names and things like that. And then I thought about it for about a year, and then I said, you know what, I need to make this more personal, I believe, to
Mm.
really impact, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I did add our names in it. I asked my wife if she was okay with me sharing our story. And she really was the one that pushed me because she was okay with it. So that really pushed me to go ahead and do it. Definitely.
No, and that's like and that's powerful. That noticing, I guess, the difference between using a pseudonym in as the for the characters in the book, but then showing your, I won't say vulnerability, but your
Right.
ability to be
Hmm.
able to get intimate with what you were sharing. Because
Right.
had you decided to keep it, just keep with the different name, no, I'm quite sure nobody would have known that it was you that you were talking
Right.
about. You
Right.
know,
Right. Right.
and as a result of that, I'm going to say that when people did discover or understand that that was you telling your story, and I always tell authors that write about themselves how you telling your story frees someone else up to tell theirs. Because
Right.
they see they come to understand and believe and see that they're not the only ones. Because a lot of people think that they're the only ones that have gone through or going through a particular thing when you're
Right.
not. So when they see
Right.
somebody else, especially in a book, they can read it. If they read about it in a book, they're like, oh my gosh, this is somebody
Hmm.
who is doing or went through exactly what I went through, and it
Right.
gives them the way of being able to say, wow, this person went through it. So here's a map for me to be able to go through it or get through it, or even wow, they can relate to what it is that I went through. So I think that's great that you just made that decision to change it from having just a someone else's name to um to using your name. Now, did you find people kind of talk to you a little differently because it was your story?
I One person I sent my story to, a childhood friend who's a producer, and writer and things of that nature.
Mm-hmm.
And when I sent him the copy that I wrote with our names in it, showing our transparency, what he said to me was, "You have a very powerful story, and if you and your wife are comfortable with sharing your story, then I think what you have can really, really help somebody." And that right there was one of the other nails that just put it in the coffin for me to go ahead and go through with it. You know what I mean? But I think that sharing our names in it showed more transparency because, like you say, a lot of us go through some of the same things and we think we may be the only ones, and that's not
Yeah.
the case. That's not the case. Sometimes just talking about it or having a conversation with someone else who went through something similar and came out on the other side, that's
Hmm.
nothing but that's one of the most inspiring things right there to me. That
Yeah.
could definitely help.
Yeah, and I really truly honestly believe that we as men, but more specifically as Black men, when we
Yes.
share our stories and
Hmm.
we open ourselves up to that vulnerability, we show other brothers it's okay.
Right.
I think most of us as men grew up where we had to put on, I don't want to say put on this facade, but we were always taught that men don't cry, that men aren't supposed to show their emotions type of
Right.
thing
Right.
and everything like that. So we wound up suppressing that throughout our whole lives. But when I think when we're able to show people that we've gone through something and that we felt something, you know, that we felt something, or that we do have feelings, we do have emotions, that it allows other brothers to be able to do, to be able to do the same thing. So
Right.
I think
Right.
that's good that you were able to do that. Now, can you give us just give us a brief um, overview or synopsis about Unusual Favor, and we'll talk a little bit about where that title came from and everything.
You said give you a little outlook of unusual
Yeah,
favor.
just an overview of what the book is about.
Like I said, basically it's about I would say it's five a good 5 year span of the life of my wife and I. We got
Uh-huh.
married April 1st in 2008,
Okay.
on April Fool's Day,
Oh
2008. And
wow.
then around 2012 is when our marriage started to take a turn. And from 2012 to about maybe, I don't know, 2017, 18, we
Okay.
went through some things, you know what I
Hmm.
mean, that altered our relationship, really.
Okay.
Neither one of us in the beginning thought that we would make it out of what we did
Hmm.
because of some of the things that went on in our relationship, but we were able to push through it and come out on the other side, definitely. So like I say, I wanted to share the story just to help another female, another male dealing with anything similar to what me and my wife dealt with and still do deal with to this day, that we have to keep in order. um,
Hmm.
I have this book was released last year in April. So it's only been out. As a matter of fact, April 25th on my birthday will be the year anniversary for Unusual
Oh,
Favor.
cool.
Yeah. And I'm working on the second one right now. That'll be released hopefully by the end of this year.
Oh, okay. No, and that's awesome that you have your anniversary, your wedding anniversary, and you have your book release
Yeah.
anniversary in the same month.
Same month.
I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
that's I
This
think
was a
that's yeah. I think
this was definitely a dream come true to me. I've always wanted to publish a book, but I never had the time working and things of that nature. Recently, around 2013, I went through some things with my health um, where I was forced to stop working.
okay.
So that's another thing that really catapulted me into writing because
Mm.
I wasn't working, sitting around doing things. And after a while, after a month or two, it started to get. I was fine for about a month of being off, and after that, I just couldn't take it. I couldn't take it, man. I was used to 6 a.m. in the morning to like 5 in the evening days and things of that nature, and being able to be in my work vehicle and just be out in the field, and everything changed. Once I stopped working, so I was scrambling trying to figure out what I wanted to do to keep my sanity, basically.
Mm.
And writing was right there waiting for me. It's
Wow.
amazing the way that your life takes a change sometimes. You know what I mean? And you really don't even know what journey you're about to embark on. It's something special, man.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, and that is so true. And I think a lot of people have discovered what you just talked about, because with 2020 being the year that it was, it
Yeah.
stopped for everything, stopped for pretty much everybody, and they had to be able to navigate, like you said, being having to stop, not being able to
Right.
go to the places that we were used to being able to go to, and kind of go as we freely could, and everything like that. And what I tell people, 2020 forced people to deal with themselves, because a
Yeah.
lot of
Yeah.
people were used to just running. They were
Right.
running here, running there, doing this, doing that. So they didn't have time. It was they get to their routine. They could go hang out or whatever, come home, go to bed, get up and do the same thing over and over again, or hang out and stuff like that. So they didn't have to deal with themselves. But when you have to be with yourself 24/7, if that makes any sense to people, and like you said, you have to find that outlet, because you don't have an outlet. You didn't have an outlet now, like you
Right.
said, because you couldn't, it wasn't like you could go anywhere at that time. So,
Right.
um, did that time teach you anything about yourself?
Oh man, 2020 taught me a lot.
Mm-hmm.
If it wasn't for 20, and then what's interesting is, I don't like, all of the lives that we lost and things of that nature in
Mm-hmm.
2020,
Right,
but
right,
it brought families closer together, I
yeah,
noticed. And for
yeah.
me, 2020, I was still doing my Spitfire poetry thing. Like, I used to do a open mic at a couple of different art galleries and restaurants,
Okay.
and
Mm-hmm.
that's my baby, the poetry. And when COVID hit, I kind of went into a panic at first, like, what am I going to do? I can't have my friends come out and we do poetry or open mic because we can't go to any restaurants.
Right,
Everything is
right.
closed down. And that's it's interesting because that's another thing that really pushed me to, because the book was already written.
Okay,
But I
okay.
said to myself, well, what else am I going to do if I can't put the poetry, do the poetry thing? And that's another reason why I put this out last year, because of just that. I said, well, I gotta figure out something to do to stay, keep my content going. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Stay in people's face. So it was perfect. Unusual Favor was right on time. It was already written. I just had to tweak a couple of things, send it to. I found an amazing editor and publisher named Angela Edwards, man, who a sister from Houston, Texas, who walked me through everything, and it was absolutely wonderful, because I'm a first time book writer. These are my first. This was my very first book. So
Okay.
a lot of the research that I did before I started to look for editors, I thought I knew a lot. And when I met this woman, man, she she said, I mean,
Yes,
it was like
sir.
it was like school. You know what I mean? She sat me down over the phone and just walked me through everything. So I'm very grateful to that. Definitely.
And now, I'm gonna pick up on that, because I think that that is a key point for authors and writers, especially for first time author writers. How and can't stress enough how important it is to have that. You must. I'm gonna say it again. You must have a good editor. A good editor will be your best friend when it comes to
Yep.
this when it comes to your writing journey, because there's nothing worse, and there's nothing that can destroy your writing career
Hmm.
faster than having a
Hmm.
book that has too many or multiple errors in it. Not saying you can find an error in any book and find an error in it, but the thing of it is, a good editor will minimize where you won't even. There may be a one or two errors here, something here, there, that not everybody is going to pick up on, but that but for the most part, the it doesn't become to you. So I'm glad you mentioned that, because you being a first time author, and talk about how important that was for her to walk you through that process, to get you to be able to understand about what writing, because we all have an idea. Okay, I'm just
Right.
going to write this. A lot of think that I'm just going to write this book and it's going to magically appear. But talk about that process for you and learning from her about what
It's
she taught you and what she gained you.
it's definitely an interesting process. Like I said, something that I thought I had a little bit of knowledge on, but once started to talk to her, I realized what I had was just a minute, bit of knowledge. And it was very eye-opening, Leroy, because for one, um, I found out way in the beginning before I even met this editor that if you want to put any material, literature wise, book wise, on Amazon, it has to be professionally edited to be on a lot of these different platforms. If it's not edited professionally, they won't even accept it. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Um, I met a sister a few years ago who wrote a book, and one of her first books, she showed me some of the errors and things that were in it, and really warned me on how serious it is to
Mhm.
get a good editor and make sure it's done the right way.
Yeah.
Now, me personally, I am a big person on investing in myself. You know what I mean?
Right.
So the when I looked at the fraction of money that I would have to spend to get these projects done, I felt as though it was something that needed to be done so I can
Mhm.
get the outcome that I want. You know what I mean? I was always raised on you get what you pay for. My dad,
Mhm.
my dad used to always say you get what you pay for, and I've always lived my life like that. If I need something and maybe can't afford it at that time, I do what I have to do, save up whatever to get it
Mhm.
the way that I want, so I don't have to keep spending that same money over and over and over. So having that editor, her name is Angela Edwards too. Having that editor was major. She walked me through the copyright process, things of that nature, the ISBN numbers where you have your UPC code on your books where it can be tracked and things of that nature.
Mhm.
Um, Showed me how to maneuver through the Amazon app, because Amazon does have an app for books. And KDP, Kindle Direct Publishing,
Yeah.
is
KDP.
an app that Amazon uses. It's wonderful. It helps you track, your book. It helps you to price your book, everything.
Mhm.
She walked me through everything and made me feel very comfortable in in the project that I was putting out. Because when you put a lot of time into something, man, that's your baby. I'm sure you know how that is. That's your baby. So you want it to be right. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And for this being my very first baby, basically, it was heaven sent that I was introduced to this young lady, because like I said, she helped me bring my vision to life. Definitely did.
No,
I'm
absolutely.
all I'm also a Laker fan too. A lot of people ask me about the colors that I chose for this, and I'm a diehard Laker fan since, man, you talking since Magic and Kurt Rambis and Michael Cooper, James Worthy. You know what I mean? I'm one of them fans. So
You
uh,
talking my language there, because I was a diehard Lakers fan. Showtime in the 80s. Magic Johnson is
man,
my favorite basketball player of all times.
those battles with the Celtics, I'll never forget as a kid. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? My
absolutely.
uncles and my fathers yelling, making all the noise in the basement. It was a special time, man. So that's
Yeah.
definitely where I got the colors from.
Oh, cool. Cool. That's great. That's cool. That's cool. And I never put that together that you were using the. I mean, it never dawned on me about that being the Lakers colors and everything like that at
Mm.
the time. Cool. That's cool. Um, Tell me what's the message that you want the reader to come away with after they read that last page, and that last word. What is it that you want them to come away with from reading Unusual
Wow,
Favor?
that's a good question. I'm glad you asked me that. I want the reader to come away with thinking to themselves that if this gentleman can push through what he went through, then I can do the same thing. You know what I mean? there were plenty of times throughout this process where I just didn't think that I was going to come out of it, or my family may be breaking apart or things like that. And it's hard to push through things actually when you're going through, everyday life too. Everyday life, you go to work every day, you got that to deal with, you know what I mean? You're
Right.
raising children. And then when you're in a relationship and you guys are struggling to survive, it's it could be very drainful. You know what I mean? It can be very drainful. I will say a lot of prayer is one thing that helped a lot, definitely. You know what I mean? And just not giving up, man. That's really what I would like people to take from that. Just not, you know, just don't throw in the towel. You know what I mean? Don't give up, because if you just persevere and press through, you will come out on the other side, I believe. You definitely will.
Now, where how'd you come up with the title? What does that title, Unusual Favor, mean to you?
Now, Unusual Favor is a song that my wife wrote in 2014.
Oh, okay.
I don't have any more CDs. She has a CD that's
Hmm.
called Unusual Favor. All right. She released that in 2014. So when I wrote the story, I started to write our story in 2013. 2014, she released this song called Unusual Favor. And as I was writing, correcting, erasing, deleting, and rewriting this book throughout those next few years, I was trying to come up with a name. I
Hmm.
just couldn't come up with what I wanted to call it.
Uh,
And one day we're in the car, and one of my wife's CDs were in the glove box. And I'm looking through the glove box to look for like my registration or something, and it hit me. I mean, it hit me like a ton of bricks, Leroy, really. And I was like, that's it. You know what I mean? That's it, because I wanted to keep what I wanted to keep what she did alive. And at the same time, I thought it would be ingenious to wrap all of that together. Her music,
wow.
because her song Unusual Favor is her testimony of what she had to
Wow.
deal with. You
Right.
see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And
Right.
and,
Right.
and the song Unusual Favor, she says a lot over and over in the chorus. I need more. I need more Christ, more love, more prayer, more things of that nature to keep you at peace and keep you grounded. So that's really where Unusual Favor came from. That came from my wife. I had to get permission to actually use that. You know what I mean? Because she actually put that out first, and I just thought to myself,
Right.
it would make a lot of sense for me to call it that. And then, like, over the summer, I would go to I live by Morgan State University, so I would go to Lake Montebello in the early mornings and in the afternoon in the
Really? Okay.
summer. And when I would sell my books there, I would give away a free CD every now and then. You know what I mean?
Oh,
So
okay.
I had put all that together in the beginning, like, okay, she already wrote the song. When I write the book, I could tie that together. I can make merch with T-shirts and bags and things of
Yes,
that nature
sir.
to
Yes,
try to
sir.
maximize the potential of the monetary. Just try to
Hmm.
maximize that. I did do this too. I'm not going to act like I wasn't trying to turn a profit. I'm not going
No,
to sit here
no,
and lie.
absolutely.
You know,
Right.
but it feels good to be able to create something that that you can do, and then watch it go from being birthed to actually getting up on its feet and starting to crawl. It's absolutely amazing, man. It really is. It
Yeah,
really is.
yeah. It's nothing like, I call it bringing vision to reality. When
Yeah.
you have that vision of what it is that you see in your mind, and then like you said, you actually see it come to fruition, and it's right there, and
Mhm.
you just like, oh man, like okay,
It
okay.
take a it takes a lot of faith too, because, man,
Yeah.
in the process of writing this book, sometimes I'll go back and read my first book, because while I'm writing the second one, I want to make sure everything,
Mhm.
is put together. So sometimes, Leroy, I'm reading it, man, and I'll be like, man, I can't believe I went through that. You know what I
I
mean?
know,
I can't believe
right?
that me and my wife went through that and came out of that. And
Mm.
when you have nothing else left but faith, You know
Wow.
what I mean? When you have absolutely nothing left. You know what I mean?
Woo.
You are at you're there. You know what I mean? You're at your
Yeah.
breaking point. You're at your breaking point. And when God answers you and starts to make things roll and move in your direction, it's crazy, man. You know, over the last like God, at least 2 to 3 years of people that I've met and come in contact with is absolutely amazing too. Because I'm a big believer in surrounding yourself with people who are like-minded, who are, you
Mm-hmm.
know, either on the same path that you're on or on a path above you where you're trying to get to. So you need to speak with them and see, you know what I mean? Pick some brains and get some information out of people. Um, because a lot of us don't like to share information. That's one thing I learned too at the beginning of this. You know, there was a few special people, like I said in the beginning, that really opened up and let me know how they felt about my story and things like that. But a lot of us sometimes we don't share information to help each other for some reason. You know what I mean?
No, we don't.
So when you're around people, when you meet people who do things like that, and it inspires me to just keep doing what I'm doing. There's a number of people on my social media timeline that inspire me. They have no idea. You know what I mean? So, and I believe inspiration is very powerful too. So that's another reason why I'm so avid about this book and pushing it to get people to help whoever's in a relationship. You know, not to give up.
Yeah, and that's true. That's so true. Um, that you it can be easy for people to give up,
Yeah.
especially in this day and time.
Right.
And like you said, when all you have is faith, I was hoping I could find it, but I don't think I have it in this one. But um, I wrote I wrote a poem called "When All You Have Is Faith."
Mm,
Oh, I have because I have two. I got one called "Unlimited Faith," and then I have one "When All You Have Is Faith." Like you said,
hmm
like you named it. And I don't see it in that one that I have, but I want you to, if you can, I want you to talk about um, what um, what what unusual having unusual. What did writing the book? What did writing the book teach you about overcoming, and what did it teach you about favor?
Wow. It okay. Well, first about overcoming, it taught me that if you just persevere and keep pushing and pressing, that there's a strong possibility that you will overcome. You know, um, so that's it. That's one thing that it taught me definitely is to just keep pressing. The unusual favor part of it, um, like I said, my wife, we were at um, a Sunday church service one Sunday a few years back, and the pastor was preaching and he used that term
Mm-hmm.
unusual favor, right? Explaining something or something like that, and he just threw it out there like, yeah, some type of favor, like unusual favor, favor
Mm.
just unusual. And that struck a chord, in my wife. So
Okay.
that's when we came home for that next week, she was writing, trying to figure out, get in her head what she felt about that on paper. So that's how the song, um, that's how the name began, Unusual Favor. And for me, thinking that they would be perfect for the name of our story is because exactly that, it's unusual favor. A lot of when you read the book, the situations that me and my wife dealt with, sometimes in our community, the situation that I dealt with is in a reverse side. The things that I dealt with my wife was addicted because in on the cover of the book, without giving everything away, on the cover of the book it says a true account of overcoming addiction and infidelity.
Mm-hmm.
So the addiction part is something that we dealt with, but I dealt with it on a way that I was dealing with my wife who was addicted to something.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times in our community, it's the other way around. A lot of our
Right.
sisters are
Right.
dealing with a husband or a
Yeah.
boyfriend or whatever who may
Mm.
be addicted to this or just maybe in the street life, whatever the case may be.
Mm.
So I thought Unusual Favor would be even more fitting for this story because it's unusual. It's an unusual story. Most men wouldn't even share what I'm sharing about this,
Yeah.
especially
Yeah.
about talking about infidelity. I
Yeah.
mean, us as black men, we come on now. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? That's a big thing right there. But you know, having faith and then life, man, you know, put you in different situations where you never know how strong you are until you're in that situation.
Mm.
You know what I mean? You
Mm.
never know um how impactful how what you do in your situation can impact someone else. You know
Right.
what I mean? Because your situation may look and feel so distraught to you and to someone else, but for someone else to see you deal with that situation and come out of it with class on the other end, it's very impactful and it's inspirational to people.
And I like that, and I want you to, and I think you touched on it a little earlier, but I'm gonna throw a curveball at you with it
Mm-hmm.
this time with this. I want you to, can you talk about what you learned about you in the context of your marriage in writing this book? What did it teach you about you?
It taught me that, you know, I believe it, I really believe it taught me um, to harness a lot of the things that I saw growing up with my mother and father's relationship.
Okay.
They were very close. They met when my dad was like 14, my mother was like 12 or 13. They met as young friends then and they just grew into falling in love and things of that nature. So I think that that foundation that I saw growing up is what helped me to stay on a certain blueprint of what I
Okay.
wanted for my own family. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then you know, just looking back at some of the things we went through, I knowing that your faith in having some type of faith is what it bring you through because like I say it's so easy to give up, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? So
Yeah.
you have to have some type of faith that's going to push you through, and I also believe you have to find something that you love to do, okay, because it just so happens that writing is what I love to do. So that's what I did to deal with my situation. But you know, there could be someone who loves to knit or loves to sew or whatever the case may be to help them get through whatever they're dealing with in life. And that's what it was for me. Writing was it for me. Writing was what helped me get through every situation I deal with. When I'm upset, when I'm happy, when I'm pissed, it doesn't even matter. I grab the pen, you know, and just start putting pen to paper. Um, and then from some of the people who have read my book and then hearing how it impacted them and what they took from it is really the most rewarding for me, man. Really, it's because in the beginning you're sitting there, like you say with your poetry, you're writing stuff and you're about to put it out. You're like, I don't know if I want to put it out. Is it good enough? You know what I mean? Is it this? Is it that?
Yeah.
And I believe that my faith is what really helped me because another thing I see a lot with us, well, just with people, period, when we do ventures and we have projects, you know, we when if we feel as though we're not getting the support that we should be getting,
Mm-hmm.
some people get upset about that. You know
Right.
what I mean?
Right.
But I learned something throughout the last 2 years that when you have a vision,
Mm-hmm.
if God gave you a vision, it's your responsibility to work the mission for the vision. He'll provide everything else.
Come on now.
I'm telling you, he will provide. Leroy, look, man, one of my Spitfire events that I did, I was concerned about, you know, people coming out and were
Mhm.
they going to come, and you know it was kind of chilly that month, so are they going to come out, blah blah blah. And once I just stopped thinking about that and focused on just getting my part done, you know,
Mm.
making sure my material was done and ready, God provides you with the rest. He'll
Woo.
provide you. He'll provide you with the support. You know what I mean? I have people who support this book that I've never even met in my life. I just met some of these people. No, don't even know them, Leroy. They may hit me on Instagram or Facebook. You know what I mean? Hey, I've been following your poetry. I didn't know you wrote a book. I want to buy it. I want to support you. You know what I mean? And that's very satisfying for me because in our community, it's hard to get support from our own people sometimes. You
You
know,
ain't never
that's
lied.
another that's another problem we have. It really
Yeah.
is, man. We'll complain. You know, your book is $20. Are you kidding me? $20, $20. And then they go down the street, you know, to that corner store and spend $50 on a bunch of trash. And you like, are you kidding me? Okay, well, you know, okay. So that's why I say
I know.
that faith comes in, man, and um, you know, I look at it as when God gives you a vision, you should be excited about that.
Yeah.
When He gives you a vision, you should be excited because it's something that He has for you that you may not even know that He has for you. You
Yeah.
know, I used to
Yeah.
work for an engineering company in 2013 from 2005 to 2013.
Mm.
Around this time, in my what the way I looked at it in 2013, around this time, I was going to be trying to get ready to try to retire soon. And man, God had a
Yeah.
whole nother plan. And here I
Yeah.
am now, and I had 3 books published. You know what I mean? That I never thought that I would do. I never
Yeah.
thought that I would do. I didn't know the first step in how to get these projects accomplished. And like I said, when you got faith and you just don't give up, He gives it to you. He puts people in place. You know what I mean, to help you along the way, man.
Yeah.
Every single
And
time.
yeah, he surely and truly will. And you just spoke into someone with that word that you gave them right there. Because I mean, I know I felt like that where I'm like, okay, Lord, you want me to do something.
Right.
I need you to show me what to do. And as we walk by faith, like you said, He puts the right people in the right places and gives you everything that you need in order to accomplish what it is that He has put you on the journey to accomplish. And we have
Right.
to we have to walk in believing that, even though it may be this dark tunnel where we don't even know what our next step looks like.
Right.
We can't see what our next step is, but we know. And I liken it like this: sometimes when I'm in that place where I just don't know where I'm going, I look at it like this long dark tunnel. But
Hmm.
at the end of that tunnel, way down at the end of that tunnel, there's this little speck of light. And I
Hmm.
know if I keep walking towards that little speck of light, that little speck of light gets a little bit bigger. It gets a little bit bigger. It gets a little bit bigger, and you start to understand and see what it is and where it is that God is taking you. So that is awesome, for you to say that. I want you to, um, as we get ready to wrap up, I want you to talk a little bit about what are your three. I'm a and I'm big on. I want you to talk about your life and your family a little bit, but give me three keys to overcoming and coming back from infidelity. Um, what was it that made you kind of stay
Hmm.
versus saying, you know what, like we said, because most folks today that are
Hmm.
in relationships, yet alone marriages, they ain't trying to work hard for it.
Right.
They're not what I call fighting for their
Right.
marriages. What do you think are
Right.
three keys to overcoming and coming back from something like that? What would be your three things if you had if you had a couple in front of you that was the younger couple, the
Right.
younger you and
Right.
your wife? What would you
Hmm.
say to them?
Keep your faith and your relationship with God as strong as it's ever been in your life. That's number one. Number two, keep your business in your house.
Mm.
Be very mindful and be very careful of who you share information with. Now, this is a very important one. This should be number one because it can really throw things off in your relationship when you bring people in or the wrong people in.
People,
You
right?
have to you have to Um, um, remember your vows and remember what y'all stood in front of that pastor or that person who made y'all one. You know what I mean? You have to remember some of those things that y'all spoke about. If you have a family, that's another thing that was a big decision for me. You know what I mean? I didn't just make a decision. Oh, well, man, look, this is how I feel. I feel a certain way. That's it. You know what I mean? I just couldn't. I got two babies. I got a 11-year-old daughter, a 9-year-old daughter, and it was very important for me too for them to see some of the things that we dealt with on how to get back. All right.
Yeah.
They saw a lot of what of the road that we went on where it was great in the beginning. And then after a while it started to get a little weird, you know what I mean? Especially for my oldest. Um, but another thing that really helped me was my family and wanting to keep my family together. And because I feel as though the way that I treat my wife or the way that me and my wife interact with each other is what's going to shape my daughters on when they're looking for their mate when they get to be a certain
Absolutely.
age. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
A lot of the stuff that I used, and I know it to be true, bro, because a lot of the stuff that I implement in my life and with my family today is what I learned from my father. You know what I mean? What I learned watching him and his blueprint, I apply some of the same stuff to this day and age now. You got to do a little bit more tweaking now because there's a
Right.
lot more going on. These children deal with a whole lot more.
Yeah.
But your faith, keeping your business, in house, and your communication with your mate. You gotta keep that communication open and going a lot. You know what I mean? You definitely gotta keep that communication going. You may have to bring in a third party to keep that communication going because there could be a moment in time where you and that mate, y'all may want to reconcile and talk, but it's so much frustration and so much
Mm.
bent up. I just can't get over. I remember you did this and I remember you did that. So sometimes you have to bring in a third party who is biased, who's not, my mother, her mother, whatever. You can't, no, no. You know what I mean? Because even though they may think, well, I'm doing the right thing and I'm trying to tell them, but you're still my mother. You're still going to be on my side
Right.
regardless. No matter how we look at it, I'm still your baby. I'm 46 years old, but I'm still your baby. So that's how you as my mother is going to look at it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very important to keep that faith, keep your relationship tight knit and um, communication. Keeping that communication open is very important. Very important. So those are definitely the three things that I would say is what help us to get off the mat from where we were. Definitely keep fighting.
I like that. I like that. Now, what advice would you give to an aspiring writer who says, "Hey, brother John, I got this book. I think that's inside me, and I don't know what my next step should be." What would be your encouraging word to them?
If you haven't already started putting pen to paper, do that immediately. Start writing immediately. Okay. Um, and just put it on paper. Just put all your thoughts down on paper. Keep doing it as much as you can until you get it all out. Look over it, read it to yourself, and bring in someone to give you advice on what you're doing. Try to reach out to another writer, and pick their brain and talk to them about their journey or how they got to where they um, go where they are. I find a lot of people love to talk. People love to talk about what they do. You know what I mean? Especially if it's something that makes them feel good. They love to talk. So if
Right,
you're
right.
if you're if you're a aspiring writer, hook up with someone who already is, maybe a little established and get all the information you can, soak it all up. You know what I mean? And go back to the drawing board and just put it all on paper. Um, Pray about it. You know what I mean? Talk to God about it, definitely, about, what direction he wants you to go in. And just go for it, man. Don't look back. Don't look back. Just go for it. Every one of us have a gift inside of us. We just don't know what it is.
Yeah,
Some of us are
yeah.
fortunate to know what our gift is, but a lot of us don't know what our gift is. And the beautiful thing about life God puts you in situations where your gift could flourish, and you're like, wow, I didn't even, what just happened? I didn't even know. You know what I mean? That's what it is.
Absolutely, absolutely. So what's next for you? Talk about what you got going on, talk about what you got going on, what you got coming up. I know you mentioned a little bit about a couple things you had in the fire, but if you can talk a little bit about it.
But right now, I just finished Unusual Favor 2. So I'm very excited about putting that out. Like I said, around the end of the year or something like that. I
Mhm,
haven't even sent it off to be edited or anything yet. I'm still reading over it and doing all the final things.
mhm.
Um, but that's what I've been working on. Also, I'm constantly writing poetry like every couple days because that's a
Right.
therapeutic
Okay.
thing for me. So Volume 1 is out now on Amazon. Volume 2 is also out. That just came out. And I'm working on finishing Volume 3. So I'm just staying busy, Leroy, man, trying to constantly stay busy. I have started a platform for both of my books. I have a Unusual Favor podcast and a Spitfire Poetry podcast. The Unusual Favor podcast show is through Butterfly Entertainment. Shout out to Lady J and Art. But
Absolutely.
my wife, my wife and I, we're on every other Wednesday from 7 to 8, and we just have conversations with each other live, basically. You know
Mhm,
what I mean? We have
mhm.
conversations about things that we went through. We talk about things that are going on today. We had our last episode was about is are you or your mate high maintenance? And we that was a that was a good conversation right there because we both
I'm
had
sure.
some qualities that I believe are high maintenance. You know what I mean? Um, Doing that, and then with the Spitfire Poetry uh,
Mhm.
platform, I bring poets on, and they do poetry. We talk about how they come up with their poetry. We talk about whatever they got going on their platform. Tomorrow, I have a wonderful sister on tomorrow. Her name is Precious Love Given. She has a platform called Dinner for Poets. So I'll be having her on tomorrow to interview her and talk about poetry. And just keep it going because when I was doing the open mics and when the COVID hit, like I said,
Uh-huh.
I was scrambling trying to figure out how am I going to continue to do this poetry. I can't go
And
anywhere to do it,
well, we gonna talk after this because that say don't let COVID stop that because I'm gonna tell you
Right.
like I said we'll talk after this, but I got an idea for you so because it's something that I've been wanting to do so
Mhm.
we can definitely talk about that because yeah I think and you probably found this now since you have the platform for poets that there is a need for it because
Yes, absolutely.
poets are looking for that platform to be able to perform and keep themselves out there, just like the musical artists, just like
Right.
singers.
Right.
They have to find a platform now because they're not traveling, so they've had to do different things. Same thing with the
Right.
with the poets and everything like
Right.
that. So that's
Right.
that's awesome. Now,
Being able to have a platform on Butterfly Entertainment was heaven sent because I didn't know how I was going to
mm-hmm,
present it virtually. I was trying to
uh-huh,
figure that out. And
mm-hmm.
then meeting with people like yourself and Lady J and it just clicked. I'm like, well, wow, I can go ahead and start this open mic back up because I really missed that. I did, man. I missed doing that because we had a lot of fun at those open mics, and I would have my wife. A lot of times, my wife would come and sing,
Oh
for me.
yeah,
Sometimes
yeah,
when we would,
absolutely.
in the middle of the artist coming up and things like that, I would
Mm-hmm.
bring her out. She would sing things like that. So, being able to have those platforms on doing it virtually now is definitely great. Feels good.
Cool. Now you got to tell everybody how they can purchase the book and the other merchandise that you have that you got and everything like that. How can people reach out to you to be able to connect with you to one buy the book and then also buy the other merchandise that you have too?
Yeah, like I said, both books, all of my books are on Amazon and on my Instagram and Facebook pages. I'm constantly sharing the links. You go on any one of my pages at John Hansborough. Unusual Favor or Spitfire Poetry on social media, any of those sites of Facebook and Instagram. And I'm constantly sharing the links on my Facebook page and my wife's Facebook page too, Shalonda Hansborough. I'm constantly sharing those links on there. Um, you can email me at John Hansborough, the number 13 at gmail.com. You can instant message me. However you want to get in contact with me. I can mail you a book. I can bring you a book, deliver it to your front door. However you want, I can get it. I'm gonna get it to you. I'm gonna definitely get
I
it to
know
you.
that's right.
Um, but I definitely can mail it to you, to anyone. I shoot them my Cash App. I send the book. It normally takes anywhere from 3 to 4 days if we're in the state of Maryland or Baltimore. Anywhere else, it takes about 2 weeks, maybe. You know what I mean? I sent a book to a friend of me and my wife's in France, in Paris, France, and
Oh wow.
it took maybe a week and like a couple days.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know what I
yeah.
mean, for her to receive it. So that's what I'm doing now, man. Just trying to keep my content going with my poetry. Um, and I may, I'm thinking about my next couple of books, maybe starting to go into fiction. I'm really more of a nonfiction person because I like to write about my experiences and things like that.
Right.
I feel like it's more impactful. But I've 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 I have an itch for some fictional stories that I've already started to write a couple years ago.
Okay.
But I have them just sitting, just in the back burner. But I may start to focus on some of them and bring out a couple of books in a fiction form as well. That'd be something new and challenging for me, I think, because I think where my strengths are is nonfiction and sharing my experiences. You know what I mean, in my writing.
Absolutely, absolutely, brother John. I told you, this has been just a great conversation between you and I,
Absolutely.
and I knew that it would be getting people not just encouraged, but also getting people uh, back to what my cousin who's written. She has a book of poetry that she's written, but
Hmm.
her book is about love, showing people how to get back to love and overcoming to stay in love. So,
Hmm.
and to me, I think that's what your book is all about. Unusual Favor. So
Hmm.
y'all want to go out and order the book, order the book from Brother John. You can get this. I promise you, you will you will not be the same after you read this book than you were before you read this book, especially in this day and time where people have become discouraged about love.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
you listen to the conversations that men and women, especially when it comes to our community, that we
Yeah.
have when it comes to relationships, when it comes to love, when it comes to marriage, man. If you would have listened to those folks, you'd think that
Hmm.
that marriage was the worst thing in the world that you could ever
Right.
do to yourself. I said, but
Exactly.
you
Exactly.
can't get caught up in that because love is a beautiful thing, and when you talk about individuals such as you and your wife that have overcome, got to what my mother calls the other side of through. Y'all have got to the
Hmm.
other side of through and have managed to stay together where a lot of people that would have ripped them apart. They'd have been done. They'd have been
Absolutely.
done and they'd have been done and gone on. So
Hmm.
I thank you for sharing your story with us today, a little bit about your story with us. Y'all got to go get the book in order to be able to know all the story. So
Absolutely. Get the book, and you can know the whole story.
you
You
can
get
know
the
the
book.
whole story exactly.
Yeah.
So I want to thank you again for coming on to the author showcase. You all can pick up his book. You can also see him in the latest issue of the National Black
Yes.
Unity News. You can actually subscribe to the newspaper as well. You can go to www.tnbun. That's the Black Unity News newspaper. You can go there, subscribe. You can actually subscribe to the newspaper. You can actually go on over to the YouTube channel as well, where you'll see interviews that I have, like such that I have here with John, but you'll see other authors that have been a part of the showcase that we have there. It's just a number of interviews. I promise you, each and every one of those interviews, you're going to get something from. You will get something from each and every author as they talk about not just about themselves, but they talk about their journey as writers, their journey and their stories, their mission, their messages that they have to be able to reach out to people. It's just a phenomenal thing that I'm so glad to be a part of. I mean, this when Brother David came to me about the idea of doing the author showcase, man, like you said, God blows your mind about the
Yeah,
things that
man.
He does with stuff, and this is one of those things that has blown my mind, and just how each and every one of you, as as authors, have touched me in just the stories that you all have told, and just the information that you all have been willing to share with us. So I don't take that for granted, and I thank you for sharing that with us. So I'm appreciative. I want you to give your contact information one more time, and then we're going to sign out. Okay.
My name is John Hansborough. You can reach me on Instagram, Facebook, any social media site with John Hansborough. My email is johnhansborough, the number 13 at gmail.com. You can reach me that way. Leroy, I appreciate you for having me on, man. It's been an absolute pleasure. Um, I really do appreciate it to be able to come on these different platforms, man, and all of us express our feelings and express the things that we got going on. I think it's absolutely amazing. So I commend you on what you're doing. I cannot wait to get my issue of the Black
Absolutely.
Enterprise magazine. I'm so looking forward to that. And I thank you for having me on, man. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely, absolutely, man. Like I said, this has been a pleasure, and I'm going to say this. Just the great things that you have going on. It's just our community needs more. See, needs to have the spotlight shined on more
Yeah,
things like this, and that was the purpose of the author showcase. That's the purpose of the National Black Unity News, because you're not going to see these kind of things on mainstream media. So it's
exactly. That's
our
right.
purpose to be able to give us these kind of platforms. So I'm thankful for those that come on to these platforms and say, hey, you know what? Yeah, I have the ability to be able to talk about the things that I'm doing, and be able to change people's lives, change the community that we are part of, because that's what it's all about to me. So I appreciate it, and I thank you. So I want to thank everybody for tuning in for this episode of the Authors Showcase. It's your boy, the Impact Builder, Leroy McKenzie Jr. And as I always say, for 2021, leave the familiar and elevate your influence. And the only way that you do that is by reading, by picking up a book, by being in those places that will take you to your next level, whatever that next level is for you. You have the ability to be able to do it, and with the help of brothers like John Hansborough, and the great writing that he's done, he's going to take you to your next level, whether it's in your marriage, whether it's you as a black man. Understand that. I understand that as a black man, to be able to do that, because we have an obligation, and I know he feels the same way. We as an obligation as black men to be able to be there for each other, and to show each other what it is to understand manhood, and to understand the power that we have as men, and to walk in that power. So we want to thank y'all for tuning into the Author Showcase, and we will see you all next time.
Be blessed. Stay safe, buddy.